what is right is defined by your understanding, and sometimes you can think something is right while it's not right. So me manipulating people and really pushing the right buttons, I thought it was the right thing to do because it helped the bigger picture. It helped more people, you know. So for me, it was nothing wrong to push buttons, to manipulate people, to do whatever, to lie to people. It didn't matter because I knew in the bigger context, it helps kids. I always thought I respected other people's needs because if they have food, if they have a roof above their head, they can change the world, right? All these other emotional needs or whatever, I mean, come on, man. You just use your understanding, you overcome that shit, right? Thing is, though, it doesn't work like that. And it's because of that missing piece of information that I was treating people really in a way that was damaging them because I didn't truly take their needs into account. And that is where most of the disconnect was here, because people knew that I had good intent because I wasn't doing it for myself. But since I was still using them in order to gain for the benefit of the world, since there was no connection with this contribution need, with this bigger picture, they really felt like, in a sense, taken advantage of, even though it was very hard for them to place, and as a result, they channeled it through themselves. They blamed themselves. They said, like, this guy only tries to do good, and I'm obviously fucking up like crazy. So that's why this environment could be quite traumatic to certain people, because I wasn't fulfilling their needs, but they didn't have the ability to channel it in any way except themselves, because I obviously wasn't taking advantage of them. I was just trying to have a bigger impact.
And so, as part of the investigation, we began contacting former collaborators of lmao, including volunteers from the group, although most of them didn't have much to say about what happened. We also tried contacting other people that lmao had worked with over the years, like Dean Lacey, you might remember Dean's shirtless companion, Furious. He never replied, but this email, perhaps unsurprisingly, ended up getting back to his brother, Reese, the head of the Singularity group. He sent me a DM over Twitter one evening shortly afterwards. Hey Chris, as you mentioned in the mail to my brother, you're focused on determining whether anyone has been taken advantage of. Having a full and honest journalistic investigation on this would clear up much of the warped stories that have gone around that caused us a lot of stress in the past. You are more than welcome to visit us at our HQ here in Forst and interview anyone you like. Feel free to reach out. Cheers, Reese. We agreed to get back in touch after a few more days, giving us time to think about what that would actually even look like, and also to give us some room to continue investigating. As part of this preparation, we contacted a couple of friends of the volunteer who spoke out to no avail, as well as her brother, who we sent the following message to. Hi there, I'm a journalist working on a story about a theme and a group he's established in Germany. I believe your sister is a part of that group. I was wondering if I could ask you some questions. He responded to what was a very general question with, she is not a part anymore and wish she never will be again. You can ask me questions if you want. That caught us by surprise. We didn't realise that she'd left again, and so we asked him why he hoped his sister wouldn't return to live with the group. He explained, she is different. She was more progressive before, more happy. And what happened to her there, in my opinion, is a crime. I asked if that was because he thought she'd be manipulated. He responded, we all do that in some ways, but it's not just manipulate, it's controlling someone. He knows how people live in our country and what their money is for. He knew that she was bad financially. He used that whenever she didn't play the way he played. He knew her appearance was important, so he kept telling her that she was grow old and ugly. He used various things to make her insecure, and money is one way for sure. He knew she was not financially secure. He told me that she was afraid lmao would come to their hometown and convince her to come back, something he had done once before. I asked if his sister had ever been in a relationship with lmao, and he told me yes. She followed him years back before he answered her message. She probably idolised him. He later clarified that he wasn't sure about the relationship. At this point, I asked him if he could pass on a message from us. Here's what we wrote in the message. Hi, my name is Chris Bratt, and I'm a British journalist investigating Bashir lmao, aka Athene, and the group is put together in Forst, Germany. Having spoken to a number of people who have since left that group, I understand you might be suspicious that I'm somehow working for Athene or not to be trusted. I'll provide some proof as to who I am at the end of this message, hopefully that helps. I've been investigating Athene and his compound, that's what some people refer to the building as, for the last year after I became concerned that he may be abusing his position and using it to manipulate young and vulnerable people. I've heard stories about him being extremely difficult to live and work with. I've also been told that anyone who disagrees with him in the compound is made to feel isolated and worthless. A number of people have told me that he uses money, both real and cryptocurrency, to control people within the group. When someone says they intend to leave, for example, and they threaten to take back any cryptocurrency they own. We'll get onto that part later in the video. All of this sounds like very manipulative behaviour, and I'm hoping that by putting together my story, I can help prevent more people from being harmed. I don't want more young and impressionable people to end up moving to his compound and having their lives ruined. I'm hoping that you feel the same. As I mentioned, I've been working on the story for a long time, and I'll be publishing it at some point in the near future. However, I can really use your help. You seem to have had a very close relationship with Athene, and by the sounds of it, you've been hurt by him more than anyone else as well. I really need your help to tell the story and make sure nobody else gets hurt. I understand you probably don't want to talk about the theme right now, but with your help, we can make things easier. If you think you can help us tell people about what's been really happening at the compound, please get in touch. I'm sure you have concerns about your privacy, and I'm very willing to discuss that with you. We don't need to use a real name or show your face, or anything that might give away your identity. Before we didn't. I want to help, I promise that. Thanks. And it was at this point that we unwittingly became a major part of the story. 4 days after sending that message, I received the following tweets from the volunteer who we contacted. They read, "I don't find it okay that you keep contacting my family and friends. I told you I don't want to talk to you. People message me about the mails you send them if they're being abused. I don't feel okay with my deleted. I don't want to have anything to do with your hit piece. Your message to me is filled with lies, and I don't want you to use anything from me in your video. Everyone that contacts me because of your lies, I will tell them the truth that I told you to leave me alone, as your message feels very manipulative to me." This was quickly followed by tweets from several other members of the group, including Bumaza, Layson, Tanya DeVoe, Bumaza's partner of 20 years, and Meryl Magadassi, who's a consultant for Save the Children and is currently staying with the group in Germany. That night, Bumaza recorded a live stream alongside the volunteer, who would evidently return to join the group once again.
Is because this is pretty serious. I mean, if this guy would make a sensational hit piece filled with fucking lies, I see it very easily live its own life and create a little bullshit. Even if I would fuck her, that's not your business. Just bullshit. And you would figure that out immediately by talking to the people, which you did. You didn't give a shit about that. You don't care about the truth. You just care about your hit piece, and that's why you were after. You were after. Because a girl that is crying, gets people to immediately be on your side. It doesn't matter any of the context or whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. Even though we gave you the context, it's actually a disgrace to journalism. You're still welcome to come and check out the place. But we will have our own camera crew follow me, because you're the kind of journalist that doesn't give a shit about facts, and if you can warp shit, you will be doing it. So we will have everything on tape. So if you take any shit out of context, as you have already been doing, trying to get some stupid, narrow, like just some really low blow hit piece at the cost of what? It's like, you know that what you're writing is not true. You know it for a fact. You've talked to people, you know it. Why do you do that? You know it's gonna affect what we're doing. You know that too. You don't give a shit about that either. You're just trying to, desperately get some clicks on your YouTube channel to be a little bit to get a little bit of spotlight, building on lies, like literally, calling people, messaging people. Well, if he wants to do that, but we'll see how you feel as well. Maybe you don't feel like doing this shit. Like you can see what happens if he decides to come over to you, whether you feel like it or not, to talk to him.
Over the next few days, we were accused multiple times of constructing a hit piece, of manipulating sources, of harassing volunteers, and of threatening the charity work that was being done. We also invited, again this time much more publicly, to come and visit the group for ourselves, enforced, but warned that when we did, they would also have a camera crew filming us. I contacted the volunteer's brother one final time to ask if he'd seen what was happening, and he told me that he'd spoken to his sister and decided that things he told us were actually based on anger and prejudice, not facts. He also explained that he'd now decided to apply to join the group himself because he wanted to be a developer, and it was difficult to find a job doing that in his country. 3 days after that message, I sent another. I had wrong information. Don't use anything I told you as if it's not true. If you do, I will show you a liar. We were then informed that our original plan to come and visit the group in person was to be postponed till at least the game that they were working on had been completed, and instead we were offered an interview with Bumaza live on his Twitch stream for all to see. The group was also reaching out to its press contacts, they told us, and that Save the Children was being asked if they'd be interested in publishing a free press release surrounding the incident. Quote Layson here, "The angle being fake news, cancel culture, can unjustifiably affect conversion efforts. This hasn't happened as of yet." The whole thing was described to us as being a massive event for the group, which made us feel uncomfortable given the topics we'd hoped to discuss, but it seemed to be the only way we'd be able to ask the questions we wanted to ask. And finally, the interview with Bumaza would only take place if we agreed to one final stipulation. The first 20 minutes of the stream were to be set aside for a discussion on fake news, cancel culture, and why our investigation was a sham. Well, I say discussion, it would turn out that for the entirety of these 20 minutes, I was in fact muted.
But if a CNN reporter would email an ex-cabinet member of Trump and say, "Please help me stop Trump from hurting people and such," he'd get fired.
muted, and also nicely framed by quotes taken from my message entirely without context. You can find a link to the entire thing, including this bit, also the interview itself, in our video description. The only edits that we've made are to mute the name and blur the identity of the volunteer. Everything else is there for you to watch in its entirety. And yeah, if you do watch it, you'll see that this ended up being, by some distance, the most hostile interview I've ever had, which I suppose shouldn't have been much of a surprise given this comment from Layson just before it started.
All right, so I'll bring in a theme.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Cool. Again, I want to, just to be clear to the viewers as well, like, we are not exactly thrilled with the way that Chris went about displaying journalistic integrity, being put as an effort in his presence and protest. But he will give extensive, honest, in-depth replies to it.
Despite this, I pressed on as best I could. One of the early questions we had from Marza involved something he'd said in that first live stream in which he'd called out our investigation in relation to the volunteer that we'd attempted to contact.
Even if I would fuck her, that's none of your business.
Relationships, even in a much more standard workplace than this one, can pose all sorts of ethical issues. Like, for example, if you're dating a subordinate and you have the power to do things like give them a raise or sign off on their holiday requests or make them redundant, your relationship is going to end up being a factor. It needs to be considered. And so the reason we're interested in whether or not Bumaza had had any relationship with a volunteer here is because there's an even more unusual power dynamic to consider. They all live and work in the same building, with absolutely everything being paid for by money that is raised largely by Bumaza himself. The religion they're all a part of is sometimes referred to as athenism, and the video advertising the volunteer program is literally called the Theme. He's not just some guy in this setup, he's the guy. So we want to know if that's being considered.
Yeah, this is something you said about the investigation on one of your live streams. You were sitting next to a volunteer that was a woman, and you said, I think directed at me, even if I would fuck her, that's none of your business. Why did you say that?
Because it's true. I mean, like, I can do whatever I want in my private life, and that doesn't concern you. I mean, if I tell you, do you cheat on your girlfriend?
Thing's tough.
Or on your wife?
But I'm tougher.
Or if I say, like, do you have any romantic relationships with anyone? Chris, tell me please.
The difference being
your parents. How is their relationship going?
The difference being here that I think the difference being here is that these volunteers, you can potentially have a big impact on their day-to-day lives. You could, you are paying for their for them to stay there, their food. A lot of them are sort of fans of your work. A number of them have invested in your cryptocurrency. You could kick them out of the compound potentially if you wanted to. So I'm just asking about this because
even when it comes down to these things, right? When it comes down to kicking or not kicking, it's not even a decision that I make. When it comes down to people getting kicked out, it's only for security. Because at the end of the day, like, why would you kick someone out? I mean, if they are here, they're doing their best in any shape or form. I mean, what would be the reason to kick them out? It's not like I'm running the show. That's the thing. You're trying to make it sound like I'm the one bossing everybody around in the compound, while Reese is the one that has literally all he's the one that. So, like, this question, what you should ask about romanticism or whatever, you should ask the one that is in power, not me. Why are you asking me? Well, Reese is even more interested. I don't.
I guess because there's a number of things that make it particularly worth asking you about. One, we have had someone come out and talk about psychological abuse in relation to yourself.
Well, that person is really
I often enjoy your freedom.
She doesn't talk about it. Doesn't care about how she feels, does it, Chris?
I'm just saying that.
Look at the camera, please, and look in my eyes. Do you actually care about her?
Of course I do. I'm just stating that is in.
Respect her wishes. Do you want her to come back inside and tell you, man, you shut up about these things? I don't want to talk about it. You're hurting me, or you don't care about it at all.
I suppose the question I really want to hear answered is: do you think it would be there would be an ethical issue with you having a romantic relationship with one of your volunteers?
Oh no, of course not.
You don't think it would be ethical?
Just as much as it's not just as much as it's not wrong if Reese would have a relationship with someone here or anyone here, I mean, like, what is it? Do you think that we tell people who they can have relationships with or not? Of course, I don't have any issues with people having a romantic relationship here. That sounds crazy.
I'm talking about you specifically. You are in a position of power, clearly. That people listen to you.
Reese is in a bigger position of power than I am. Why didn't you ask these questions to Reese? Didn't you hear what he said? Or you don't care about Reese because he's not, enough of a low-hanging fruit for your little article? Oh man, Chris, you want to ask these questions about power? Do I have to call Reese back in so you can answer these questions?
But I'm not asking Reese. I'm asking you.
Yeah, but he's in a bigger position of power than me. He can kick me out tomorrow. So you should ask him because he is my boss in a sense.
This would become a recurring theme throughout the interview with Bumaza, who rarely admitted to having any power himself and often deflected the responsibility he may have onto someone else within the group. From here, we moved on to Bumaza's views more generally on women. I asked him whether he felt it was appropriate to run a stream like the one involving the two women who'd received donation messages like, "You're a failed abortion, whose birth certificate is an apology from a condom factory."
The streamer that will hear that, he's trying to interview about the alerts that show up when someone donates and he's trying to pull you down for that. That sounds like that's a really, really shitty attempt. And also, at a good law, they made some good money. If you can go to a streamer and say like, "Hey, I want to donate you $500, but I want to say some titties and sucking in the message. Can I do so?" They would say like, "Give it to me, all you want, and say whatever you fuck you want in your message, because these $500 will do much more better than some virgin on the internet trying to get a response of a girl." So you cannot make me responsible for these things that are being said. That's really, I gotta try a little bit harder. What's the next thing?
It's also worth pointing out that it wasn't just the Twitch chat that had things to say about the two women during the stream. These are some quotes from you. She can't help it that she has big tits, though. When one of the women says, "I'm not about dancing on the stream for money, sorry Athene," you respond with, "You're not the feminazi kind of girl, right?" You said, "They're already growing closer. This is nice. I think at the end they will just get together or something." And finally, maybe they'll give you a little jig. I don't know. Maybe they'll give you some nice moves. Maybe they'll start competing with the moves. Maybe you guys will get some nice show. My question is, do you think there's a problem with anything that you said there?
Well, Chris, just admit that I don't think there's a problem with the show of Stick and Stones.
Another one down.
In the context of
Thank me
humor,
later,
as
sir.
long as the girls were feel comfortable with it, and it was just for the show, whatever. It's not because in these 3 years we've become a lot more politically correct that these things cannot be said. There's a lot of stuff that I would love to, do and say nowadays in the environment of humor, but I can't. Like, I literally had to shut down my own YouTube channel, even though people loved it. People loved my humor, and it's this kind of bullshit that is the reason why I had to shut it down, because I can't even make jokes anymore. I can talk about jiggling tits or whatever the fuck if it's in the context of making a joke and people laughing. Why do we have to be so goddamn serious? I have a lot of respect for women, and the most, actually way more than you. You know why? Let me tell you why. I care about women because I know when they have a child and they have to bury that child, it's the biggest pain a woman can go through. Do you know that's one of the reasons why I go out of my way to save lives? Because of that, I respect women. I respect mothers more than anything, because I know they have to carry a lot of pain, and I put that into action, not trying to make hit pieces and try to put someone like me down. Do you know how much good I do in the world? And then you're trying to portray me as some kind of, I don't know, some misogynistic guy, while I'm very respectful to women.
With that in mind, we asked him about his comments about women being emotionally manipulative machines.
Like, let me tell you something. First of all, I love my mother more than anything. And when it comes down to my personal relationships with women, I also treat them with respect and the way I would like to be treated myself. Aside from what my experiences have taught me. And when it comes down to my
anomaly in
experiences,
this sector.
like
Better
what
stand
you're
for
saying
it.
right now, right, about emotional manipulation and all that stuff, Maral told me these things. I'm not even saying as an anonymous source. She told me they're very, very talented at pushing the right buttons. I can say everything you just said in different words, and then you would just even agree with me. The difference is that you're trying to, make it sound like this evil guy, and you use like some very emotional loaded words, because that's your intent, that's your agenda. You don't care about the truth. You truly know that there is no fire. You know it, but you don't care. Is it because you got triggered with my real talk at one point and you were watching the stream? I don't know, man. But like honestly, like if you try to make me look bad and that's your intent and that's the only thing you care about and that's what you tunnel vision on, like why do you even need my responses? Just make your piece and say whatever the fuck you want. That's how it works anyway. Why do you even want to hear me respond to any of your claims? Because I can talk to you under the table for each one of them. You know what you're doing. It's like when I say like, oh yeah, emotional, manipulative, this and that, like, oh yeah, the way you say it in the tone or whatever the fuck. Like when it comes down to relationships and when it comes down to relationships between men and women or whatever, right? It's about trying to understand it. It's not about, you know, finding labels and judge it. It's about understanding why we work, how we work. And the thing is like there is nothing wrong about it out. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I'm not trying to just to say these things as absolutes at all. It's just my ability or my way of working. And there is difference between women and men, even though I believe they're fundamentally equal. There is differences, and the way a woman grows up and the way a man grows up is fundamentally different. And it's just for me very fascinating how the world and how a woman experiences the world is so different that I can't even relate to it. I can't even understand it. You know, you make a pretty good case about
Never messed
emotional
with a boy
manipulation,
runner
so maybe I
before.
should review it and also, you know, add Chris to that equation. You know, actually also emotionally manipulative. And the extent to which you go, even now, getting exposed and stuff, I gotta say, I didn't know that you would go to that extent, but keep on going. What's the next thing? Let's go.
I don't think you, again, answered my question there. So I'm pointing out that this stuff that you say, you obviously have an audience that listens to you and takes what you say very seriously, so much so that people come and you know, join your group and work with you. They are like, do you not feel you have a responsibility when you say something like, it's quite fascinating how girls are evolved to be emotionally manipulative machines, which is just something you said. I'm not taking that out of context. You have an audience that is listening to that, an audience of mostly guys, but some women who are going to hear that and internalize it because it's you saying it. Do you not think there's a problem with that?
So the way you are
Not so tough
bringing it up
after
is
all.
like as I'm stating it as an absolute truth. For me, it's like if I'm being told by someone that this is how they do it, then I find it very baffling and I talk to care about it on the show because that's what real talk is. I talk about controversial topics all the time. If Destiny says it's fine to fuck your mom, like in order to, you know, keep from I mean, like, are you gonna say like, hey, all these people his mothers are watching you, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna go to their mother and say like, hey, can I fuck you? Like, seriously, man, this is what real talk is about. You can't take that this out of context and make it sound like, oh yeah, you gotta go and like all these vulnerable people. Like what I'm doing to people that watch me is make them think for themselves. That's literally the first thing I say all the time. Think for yourself critically. You don't believe everything I say, and I do know that it's not that simple. Like you do it in that context because you know you take it out of context. Again, hey, nothing is new here. But like on top of that, when it comes down to that, like I don't think they're just emotional manipulation. Call it manipulation. I would just say they've been evolved way more to emotionally capable of being able to get what they want, and that's how it works. And that is because that's what I've been told. And is there anything wrong to throw that out there and read people's comments and debate about it? Are you gonna tell me what topics I can or not debate? Like everything it makes absolutely no sense. The way he's trying to portray me as misogynistic ain't gonna fly either. Every single girl here would vow against it, and even I think all girls except one, that's gambling, would say the same. They would say I treat them with respect more than anything. So I don't try to put these things out of context, honestly, because it's not in line with reality, and it won't fly either. I actually want to by the way, are you going to just make all these quotes and not even give me the ability to respond? I see you do that. Man, oh man, if you do any kind of defamation or whatever, like I will not just sit by and do nothing. I will actually respond to that and make sure that people know what you're trying to do, because it's such a misinformation. It's crazy. I think at this point,
Welcome back, Ray.
I don't even know if it's needed. I think people already know what kind of a journalist you are. So keep going. Like, what's the next thing you want to say?
I want to say that I am giving you an opportunity to respond to this.
Well,
this
are
is
you
me,
going to
this
add
is
it
me.
to your piece?
We are gonna look at the whole thing and see what is.
So you're not gonna try to change the piece to make me look like a misogynistic guy saying the stuff in Discord And
We
then,
haven't-
you know, well, that's what
I
you're
feel
going
like
to do.
you're talking over me slightly here. We haven't actually started on putting our pieces together. This interview is a part of that. I'm just simply asking you, are those comments that you said, in your view, sexist? And do you think you have a responsibility, given the audience that you have,
But I just
to be
responded.
careful when you say things like that? I've given you the chance to respond to that.
Yeah, and I did respond to it in full context, and I wonder if you're going to give that context in your documentary, or if you're just going to put that and say, we asked him to respond, but he was just like trying to justify it.
Following that concrete answer on whether his comments were sexist and whether or not he had a responsibility to his audience, we moved on to clicking. Here Bumaza did seem to recognise that he had been at fault to some extent.
Well, the thing is with clicking, with the entire clicking part, I have to say, right, I did make mistakes. I can't admit that I made mistakes, and the way I went really, very strong on that one, even though a lot of it was also a show. I could have done it better, definitely, and I also think that this clicking stuff might have caused, and I already said that I thought even in this building, it caused like groups, people saying I want
The structure looks
we had the
undamaged.
non-flippers and the clickers,
Is it built
and we
in
were
side
very,
filter
very
void?
against that. And we have, since then taken a much more chill approach. But the initial idea of clicking, it's not that I believe it.
The structure looks
It's just like
undamaged.
something that I think
Was it built
is
inside the
just
ultra void?
because there
How
is
is that
studies
possible?
about paradigm shifts and stuff, and the ability to initiate and stuff. It's not just something out of the blue. And but of course, the way I went about it was way too binary, and I should have done it in a better way. And in retrospect, it's a lesson I've learned. And that's how life goes. I try to do things, try to learn from mistakes.
Hoping to talk about some of those mistakes in more detail, I brought up logicnation.org, where Bumaza was quick to point out that they don't direct people to that site anymore, but for a while they did direct a lot of people there, and so I wanted to know how he felt about the claims that clicking could cure someone's addiction, depression, or anxiety.
Do you think those statements are true?
Well, I think at the time, based on our, because we had quite a big sample, right? We had a lot of people saying these things, and that's why we wrote it down, because we were like, oh yeah, these people are really, having a good time. Like it's having a really good effect, positive
never be
effect.
clean.
Since then, a lot of people have, what do you call it, fallen back, right, to their previous habits. But we've never really even started in updating that page because nobody visits it. And the reason why it's still up there is because we don't want to hide it away. We don't want to remove evidence or whatever. Like, we don't care. Like, it's a certain period of time and that's it. So there's certain claims there that are definitely not representative of reality. And that is also why I'm not, in any shape or form telling people to go there. People can, people that are watching the stream right now can testify to that. If I say to check something out, check out the podcast. This logicnation.org is just like an old website, and that's all. So some things, there's quite some things there that is not accurate. Same with
Why
some
were you
videos we
here?
put up on our YouTube channel. Since then have also been changed. Certain claims I made. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm still interested in that site because you did use it in a much more substantial way at one point, and as I said, it still is up without any disclaimers about the fact that you may have moved on from that. Having read through the testimonials on Logic Nation from people who have clicked, we found that something like 45% of the people mentioned that clicking can be the solution to either anxiety, depression, social isolation, or low self-esteem. In some cases, they'd mention all four of those things. I'm wondering, are you concerned that all the people who read those testimonials could be led to believe that clicking is the cure to their mental health issues, rather than going to seek a professional?
That's a long stretch, but hey, I'll answer your question. I mean, it's people testimonies. I didn't even check them. If people just go on a forum and talk about these things, what are you gonna say? Say like, hey, are you taking away? There's so much stuff out there about crystals or whatever the fuck. People have the right to say what their own experience is. So if you want to address this, you should address it with each single one of the people that are being testifying. So, I mean, like I said, it comes back to the bottom. I'm not the boss. It's like I'm trying to make it sound like I'm the one doing everything. It's not like that. I'm just doing my stuff.
And if you want to talk to the boss, talk to Rick.
So you mentioned that some of the stuff on Logic Nation isn't necessarily related to you, but here's a quote from episode 75 of your Real Talk podcast, in which you said, people can come over here, we have the building, we can provide everything. People can come over here, work with us to change the world. The first thing, obviously, is spreading the awareness, because when people have this awareness, they just start working and making a difference and having an impact. And the funny thing, you feel more stable and more in balance with yourself than ever. If you are depressed, depression is gone. You know depression, you deserve depression. Knowing this, you deserve it, because depression is merely you being attached to how you feel and your own experience. You chase your own experience, knowing that it kills people, you're in action, then maybe you do deserve it. That is an example of you yourself having talked about depression and speaking as what sounds to be like almost an authority there about other people's mental health.
It's actually...
I just wondered, you said that maybe Logic Nation maybe needs updating and you weren't so involved with it, but here's an example of you literally saying to people, if they come and work with you, their depression will be gone.
But I want to ask you a question, right? Just out of curiosity. Do you think I'm the one editing these podcasts and improving them?
I have no idea. I'm just asking you about something you have said here.
No. You're asking about something that is being edited in a podcast by someone here. I would like to see the full context of that, both like hear the context so I can give you a proper answer. Because, like I said, these things are just being edited, and people that are here, like they don't get instructions how to edit. It might as well just be a viewer, and if you go around and you check out stuff there that I say that sounds absolutely insane. It's like the part where I say like, oh yeah, I don't care about kids dying in Africa. That actually was part of the reason why I got banned, and then afterwards I had a lot more context. If someone here is editing a podcast and he hears some earth or something very constructed afterwards, they just cut it out. I would like to hear the context to give you a proper answer to this question. And it's not deflecting at all. Like, I obviously do not believe that people deserve to be deflected at all. And so I can give you a proper answer. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to wiggle around or whatever. Not that kind of guy at all.
Well, okay, I guess to keep it more general then, do you think you have a responsibility to be careful with the things that you say in these podcasts or the way that they end up being published to the public? Because there are people listening, some of them will have depression. So this is not it.
The people that would have depression and watch my streams, I do believe that I have helped quite some people with depression. Of course, you will also have people that say that people cause depression. But it's very hard for me. I just have to admit that. That's why I do a Real Talk podcast. And sometimes I push people to one end or to another, but I always have the best intent and these things. I would say that if people don't like the show, they just don't check it out. It's a controversial topics where I talk, and I'm very real, very hard, and I say stuff that can be sometimes very controversial, but at the same time, I'm always open to be challenged.
I just want to pick on something you just said during the answer. You said that you've helped some people with depression, you think, that have listened to the podcast, but you've also, some people might have had their depression caused by your podcast. Is that what you said?
No, what I said is that I might have helped people with depression, but I also might have made it worse. I'm like, who am I to make it and say everyone would be better off? I can't say that, because there are definitely people I know, even in the chat, that said that I really fucked with their head. But that has, even in that regard, that has more to do with the conflict that is caused because of the reality of the world and their inability or their inaction, rather than what I say, or rather you say.
Do you not feel that you have a responsibility to be careful with the words that you use and the way that you talk to this audience if you have the capability of messing with someone's head that's listening to you?
Well, the thing is though, like, if I was able to inside people's heads and help them, then I would definitely do that. Like, for me, I don't want people in any shape or form to be worse off after they saw what I have to say compared to before. And the thing is, like, it's very hard for me to find the perfect balance, because everybody has their own configuration, their own experience, their own trauma, and it's very hard for me to navigate in a way that everybody can grow from the talks. The best answer I can give you is the one where, like, if I would know better on how to go about things. So, like, of course, I'm very aware and do my best. But secondly, what is also very important is to see the bigger context, where what is it that I'm actually doing? What is it that I'm contributing to the world? And when you see my actual actions and the amount of, and I'm not using this as a justification, I'm just giving it context. If you're talking about like harming people, right? Then the one that is doing the most harm is you. I mean, you're really trying to cancel me, going really out of your way to find little quotes left and right, while I'm literally, reaching millions of kids. So if it's about caring about people's lives,
Welcome back,
what
Ray.
you are doing is a lot worse than me saying stuff maybe not in the right words at the right
Can we help
time,
you? See you
and
around,
someone
sir.
that is watching the stream voluntarily might be hurt by it. Like what you're trying to do is you're trying to cancel one of the biggest philanthropists on the internet, and then you're trying to talk about caring about people. Like, seriously, man, I'm much more balanced and much more thought through about my actions and its consequences than you are.
Next up, I asked him about the videos of dead children that were still being linked to on the group's Logic Nation site.
So, how do you feel about those videos being on the sites?
I think it's good.
Even though it's linking people to some pretty traumatic scenes.
Man, that's the reality. It's like if you go to YouTube and you look for videos and you find that you don't want to see the truth, you don't want to see what is happening out there, you want everything to be cozy. I mean, that's the reality. That's actually happening to kids, and that's what I'm trying to make a difference about. You're trying to make it about how you feel. How do these people in these videos feel? It's a little bit selfish of you to try and say like, hey, be very careful. I don't want to see, what shit place the world is. Can you just keep in the bubble?
This site isn't just about showing people reality. It's showing these videos with the intent being that you want these people to click. The people on this site, the whole thing is built around these 4 steps to logic as your new core value, and that you yourself will click. What I'm asking is, do you feel comfortable that those videos are being used to promote what is your ideology?
Well, I wouldn't say it like that. First of all, when it comes down to the clickbait, really be moving away from it. I mean, everybody in the chat can testify to that. And like when it comes down to the videos per se, just independently, it's fine to have there. And what we're just trying, when we made the website, what we wanted people to be aware of is, I don't even know what the context is where these videos are being used. I would actually have to check it out, because I'm not even the one that made the website. Let me see. I didn't even go and check it.
Okay.
Help and guidance, logical knowledge, a team guide. Why do people do good, emotional intelligence guide, example of most videos showing strategies in the world. Okay, so how is that link connected to you gotta tell me that?
I mean, it's 2 paragraphs away from 4 steps to logic as your new core value. Next to it is a 4 simple steps infographic showing how to click.
Where does it say you're going to watch the videos? Where does it say that?
I mean, it's on a website that is built around clicking. That is the focus of the site.
You can't.
Needs a lesson in cable
because
management.
the video is about clicking every single thing there is, a way to make a click. That's a little bit like a very long stretch. It's a long stretch to try and connect everything to clicking everything. Every single testimony is also so people can click. I mean, like, people just made their testimonies and we copy pasted them literally from the Reddit. It's like this
but they're inherently being used as marketing here. They're testimonials of clicking. No, like, people are reading them to understand what clicking is like. I don't understand how on a website about clicking, this stuff isn't related to it.
But the thing is, like, that's the thing. You're trying to turn it into a conspiracy where we try to make people click and all that stuff. Like, these things, right, are very decentralized. It is not me going around trying to direct it all. So is it a conspiracy now? Now we as a group are trying to make other people click. I mean, all my viewers, like, the entire clicking part is just passé. It's old news, bro. It's like, go and ask my entire chat. Every single one of them can testify. I don't talk about the clicking. You're literally trying to fish, very hard because you can't find anything.
But you did at one point, and that doesn't mean that you aren't also responsible for that. Like the neurospinozism is referred to as like AKA Athenism on this site. Like it seems kind of wild to me that you are completely distancing yourself from what's on this, what is on the site that was used.
You're trying to put things into my mouth like why? The reason why it's a very strategic move because it creates people to talk to. That's it. And when it comes down to the website, all the testimonials, and all these things, like what was not even my project.
Finally, I had some questions about the financial setup of the Singularity Group, starting with the fact that the people working there are unpaid.
Why did you opt to recruit volunteers rather than having sort of paid employees in the very early days?
The main reason why is because in the end, like, it's about doing good in the world because you care about doing good in the world. And when money is involved, based on my own experience, even in the past, things can get very, very wonky. And it makes sure that people are really idealistic. Like I myself, for example, right? I'm literally the poorest guy in this entire building. I have nothing. Why? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I so driven, even though I own nothing? Even my phone, right? It's not mine. I borrowed it from Reed. So like in that regard, like, it's a very powerful way of seeing people's true intent, because if we start throwing money, then you have stuff like Save the Children's CEO that is getting paid I don't know how much money, and you get all that stuff. It's a very powerful framework because it also attracts people that are financially independent as well.
But here's an important bit of context. Umaza and his group have launched 2 different cryptocurrencies over the last couple of years, Doobie and Purpose. And their audience have invested heavily into daily streams advertising the investment opportunities these currencies presented. This would lead to the Athene channel being banned from Twitch for a time as it broke certain terms of service, and now they're much more careful with how they talk about it. But they did attract a lot of investors during that initial period, including people that volunteered for the group. According to Bamazo on one of his streams, some of those volunteers could end up being millionaires as a result of this investment. I have no idea how true that claim really is, but it's surely muddied the waters somewhat surrounding this being a volunteer program in which money is never meant to be a factor.
So when you say coming working for me for free, do you know that every single person here, right,
Whatever it
has,
takes. Right, Sid?
and that is his purpose, right? This is in the scenario that purpose would be worth $2, right? Has made more money. Like there's people here that have made $1 million. Do you understand that or no? $1 million in 1 year? Pretty good deal, right? If you can make $1 million in 1 year, would you do it? So where is the working for free?
Doesn't that clash with what you've just said?
No, not at all. Like if people have pure intent and come with the right reasons, then, you know, like if they then manage to build a strong financial independence on top of it, then, you know, good for them. It's not one or the other. It's like when it comes down to me, I just, you know, do stuff for free. And I don't need any of that security or financial independence. And even people that came over here, their intent wasn't that either. But it's just to debunk the argument that people say, like, oh, when people come over there is nothing to fall back on. That's not true. Like if you are an organization or, you know, like you are a religion or whatever, and people, you know, grow and the influence grows, that benefits everybody in the group. And I just want to make that clear, that it's not just like, oh, people come and work for free for me, because that's just not how it is. That just makes no sense. And also when it comes down to that, like I said, if people work for someone, it's for Reese, because I ain't making jack shit. He's taking all the money. So you should ask that question to Reese, like, hey, how do you feel about everybody working their ass off to fill your bank account?
Bamazo has also in the past talked about being able to exert control over who will and won't make their fortune this way.
What I did, right, was a handout. And the last thing I like is greed. You might say, like, how can you stop the greed? First of all, the only reason why Purpose and Ruby has any value is because of us. We can hard fork it whenever we want. And we can choose who gets what. We're always in control. You might say, like, Athene, I don't like that. It is what it is. And if people act cocky, I can just remove them.
Would that not mean then, if you did have a problem with someone in your group who is potentially a crypto millionaire because of Purpose, doesn't that mean that you could affect their fortune if you wanted to? You could make it worthless. Isn't that what you're saying here? That you have control over that?
It's not possible, and let me tell you why. Because it's not me that is running the show. Like these things, like even the report, right, was discussed by many people. Like you gotta know these things get integrated, get implemented, other people have to do it. I'm not the one that is in control of all the website, the decentralized exchange and all that stuff. Like these decisions are made collectively. And if I go around and say like, oh, let's fork that guy because I don't like him, or fork that guy because I don't like him, then it would collapse. Like it doesn't even work. People just say, fuck you, we should tell them like fuck off. We just say like if we just send them, that's the thing. That's where a lot of stuff that you say doesn't make sense. I'm not the one that is a dictator in this place. Like
so you're saying that Reese could do that if he felt that way towards someone?
No,
if he wanted to punish someone, he could
he
do
wouldn't
that.
be able to do so either because he needs approval from the people that are, making the website and stuff. He's not going around. Everybody's volunteer here. There is no like hierarchy where the boss says to people, you do that, and the guy goes like, yeah, everybody's self-thinking. If you go to someone and say like, let's fork that guy out, he will say, why? Why do I have to fork him out?
What about this quote here? Just if you could explain it to me. There's a quote where you say, I don't even need to hard fork. You might say like, why? Because I have 1 billion purpose. I assume you're referring to Reese there. I can increase every purpose by 100 except the people I don't like. Do you understand that? Firewall goes from 2 plus 5. Nothing else has changed. Everybody can just go and claim, and those I don't like, they get wrecked. Can you explain to me how that isn't you being able to manipulate your own cryptocurrency
but
to
so, like,
negatively affect people that don't
Yeah, but
don't
the
like?
important the point that I'm trying to make is and I also said straight after that, I said sell. If you don't trust me, sell.
Is that the best you've
Please
got?
sell. I'd be glad. Like even now, I said anyone that doesn't trust what we're doing, you go and sell. Go ahead. Go sell. That's all what I'm saying. Go sell. Have fun.
But it's not all that you're saying. You're also saying those I don't like, they get wrecked. That to me reads like
But the
you're
thing,
threatening
no,
people
man.
that you don't
It's
like.
in the context of if you don't trust me, I can do that. That's what I mean. If I can do that, I can literally go and say I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you. Now I just inflate everything. Like if you are a malicious person that think that I'm not trustable, you should
Sounds
just
like
not
it's
get
in
involved. And I'm just trying to make that point super clear by saying that. That's all I'm trying to do. It's a hyperbole. It's a hypothetical where people think
Later on, I asked the team how much it cost to keep the group going each month, and he told me it was somewhere in the region of $15,000, which is around $6,000.
So on the stream last year, you were talking about your group's finances, and you said, do you know that I'm the top earner on Twitter? You realize that I make more money than Ninja. I can make $1 million a month. There's nobody that can make so much money. Of course, yeah, it's with the crypto and stuff. I'm not just focusing on cash at all because we have enough. We can literally keep this place running for 10 years without having to bring in a dime. Like if it costs $15,000 a month, multiply that by 10 years, that suggests that you have, upwards of $1.5 million set aside to fund this place. I understand. Is that bank account, that finance, is in Reese's name, right?
yes.
So does that mean Reese is now
You can't save
a
anyone, not even yourself.
millionaire? Like what is the setup there?
I'm sure a millionaire. Yeah, he is.
And so is that money mostly has been earned through the cryptocurrency projects, right?
Well, it's most of it is crypto, but also we had a lot of donations.
But the majority is the
combination of
cryptocurrency.
everything, basically. It's a combination of everything.
This money is potentially it's all with Reese, right? It's under his name, even
Reese
though
is
like
Reese is the guy that gets all the cash.
Mhm.
So in a sense, you could say that he's, if you want to make a baddie about someone, then he's the one, taking advantage of me right now as well, because I'm working my ass off. And everything. Even my poker money, when I earned more than 300K, I gave it all to Reese. So yeah, he's real good. He's real good at. If there is a manipulator in the equation, then he's the mastermind, because he's taking all the cash. I have nothing.
What would be to stop Reese and perhaps yourself from shutting down the whole thing and
Myself,
and
no,
walking away from it?
just Reese.
Well, okay. Well, then just Reese. What's to stop Reese from potentially shutting this whole thing down and walking away with what sounds like more than $1.5 million?
Nothing.
Would it not be better to have an organization set up where that's not possible? Like, for example, if you were running a charity rather than a religion, the person operating the charity can't walk away with the finances. That's just not legally possible. Whereas your setup has allowed for that. Would it not be in your interest to set something up that makes that an impossibility? That the money, the finances that have been raised belong to the Singularity group as a whole, like your group as a whole, rather than one individual?
Well, we might move towards that in the future, because right now $1 million is nothing.
I don't understand why you haven't already done that, because clearly your audience has invested a lot of money into your group. Your volunteers have invested their time and their lives into your group. Why is there not already a setup that would prevent Reese from walking away or Reese from dying, like basically crippling your organization?
Because the amount of money that is being raised is not worth going through the hassle and having Reese time to set it up. And
so it's easier to set up a religion than to set up an organization that would protect from that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, setting up a religion the way we did it, with the setting we have here, the setup definitely was the easiest way to go. Because with charity, right? Just to give you a little insight, we weren't even allowed to do it because we started charity where the money went to save the children, right? Because that's what we mainly do. When it comes down to the cash flow, we actually have very little cash flow. Most of it is just crypto, and cash flow just goes to save the children, and that was not allowed.
I know, but there's $1.5 million here, which might not be a huge amount to you and your bigger projects.
It's crypto.
But it's also going to be what's potentially keeping the lights on in this place. And you're trusting, like, you're asking people to trust one person.
Let me tell you something, man. You're talking to a thing. I can do a sellout stream and literally make $10,000 right now.
Okay, well, I just don't understand.
I'm just saying, like, well, it's just a thing for you, man. I can raise. When I went to, Cherie's stream yesterday, in 5 minutes I made her $100. He just doesn't understand how I do it. I just am very good at
Should be easier to get back this way.
for cash. By the way, this is, satirical. Making sure a little disclaimer. I'm just really good. Like 1.5 million is nothing for me. I can raise that shit even if I have to play poker and make a.
But surely it's something to the volunteers that work there, and also to your audience that's like invested like that funding in the first place. I don't get this reasoning that it's just not worth the hassle. That seems like an irresponsible attitude when you're talking about.
That's not true,
more than
because
$1 million.
Because when it comes down to making an organization, right, and looking at these at proper alternatives, this is a lot of setup, man. It's not just like, oh yeah, you go walk to a law firm and they fix it. No, this place is very complicated, and it's called very much outside the system.
Okay, so for now you're just asking people to believe in it and to trust you and to trust Reese.
The thing is, like, well, yeah, they just need to trust in the project and in people's intent here. It's not me and Reese, because it's not me and Reese that keeps the place afloat. It's us as an organization, as a group, that keeps this place even able to do anything. If it wasn't for all of us working on this, then it would just be me with Reese in Medicine. It's like, I'm not telling people to trust us. It's about trusting yourself. It's a relationship with yourself. It's what you want to do good with like-minded people like that, where you can work together with them. So it's not so much about trusting people. They gotta trust in their own willingness to do it and go about it. They put their comfort aside and just put their effort in helping things that are way more important than your own comfort, to put it that way. That's the relationship. It's not the relationship with us, and that's why the place works. I mean, if it was a relationship with me or with Reese, and this place wouldn't work. And then a lot of what you say would be accurate. But I already stated it before and many times. It's decentralized. People are very mature. There's people that came over here that are successful, that have launched many different games that were, like close to million.
I know, but the money itself that you've raised isn't decentralized. It's centralized in Reese's bank account by the sounds of things. Like, I don't I don't.
The money that
I don't
I
understand.
raise. The money that
What?
I raise. Because I'm the one raising all the cash. So you're asking this question to me, right?
Yeah, but the group that you are working with are all working towards this project. Like
Yes, but
you,
I'm the guy that is raising all the cash.
How can anything survive this
sure,
heat?
with the help of the group that you've set up.
Help
Like,
of the group, it's my stream. I can go to Medicine by myself and raise tons of cash.
but you didn't create the cryptocurrency yourself. You just said to me earlier in this interview that you it was a whole group project and you required lots of different people.
Yes.
Like I'm talking about their role in this, their work.
Their contribution, their role, like even when it comes down to these things, right? Let's go at home, right? In less than a month, I could replicate everything that actually makes it by myself.
Okay, I don't know if you could, but those people they're
No man,
working
like
to-
the entire the exchange and the blockchain part, right? It's almost a fraction of a fraction. It was only the idea of me that made all the money. It was not so much their work. Same with like when it comes down to like you know what all their work is the game, and the game hasn't even come out yet. So when you want to make an argument about people's effort and you know like it's not even tangible. There's like
So when the game does come out, and you talked about it in the past about that potentially.
yeah, we will have a structure.
Yeah, okay. So by that point, once the game is close to release, the structure will change.
We will have definitely.
After a little while, the conversation then turned how if there was a big conspiracy going on here, then people would have already started talking about those problems. I pointed out that the volunteer who had publicly accused Bumaza of psychological abuse could be one such example of that, at which point things blew up again and he ended up bringing her onto the stream despite asking him not to. And that's where things ended, with Bumaza again shifting the focus away from our question and onto our investigation itself. It was an incredibly frustrating interview to be a part of, with him very rarely admitting responsibility for anything really. So much so that you'd think he was just some guy that live streamed on Twitch. But he's not just that, is he? He's the public face of this entire group and its efforts. He's the reason people join in the first place. He's the main fundraiser and figurehead. A religion has been named after him, PR stunt or not. He's an ambassador for Save the Children. He's the one that's been there from the very start, and his creative partner of more than a decade isn't just the boss, but the landlord too. And yet, if you ask Bumaza what his role is here, in his words, he's just the homeless guy that's allowed to run a live stream from time to time. That might be a line meant to make his audience laugh, but it also removes Bumaza from having to take any responsibility for his actions. He's not on the paperwork, he'd tell me. He's not the boss. He said that multiple times in response to my questions, and that is by design. It means that because he isn't, he's allowed to say what he likes about, for example, gender.
But it makes sense. Women don't need to be resourceful. Women need to be manipulative,
You
while
and me now.
men have
Come
to be
and get me.
resourceful. That's how biology works.
He's not the one running the group, and so what does it matter what he says? He can also aggressively market his selfless clip as an answer to depression.
If you're depressed, depression is gone. You know depression? You deserve depression.
Or hey, maybe he can talk about how it will lead you to having a better sex life, maybe with one of the volunteers he's working with.
You guys get it? If you never got, pussy, like there will be pussy for everyone here.
He can tell you about how some of the volunteers working for the Singularity group, like you should as well, are becoming millionaires.
Like there's people here that have made $1 million.
To launch myself into the air.
Do you understand that or not?
And then he can brag about how much control he has over that cryptocurrency.
We're always in control. You might say like, I don't like that. It is what it is. And if people act cocky, I can just remove them.
He can even be accused of psychological abuse publicly by one of his volunteers and write it off because he's told other people there that it's not a problem.
It's not the first time that I've been accused of that by her. And last time I was very reflective about it, and well, maybe I was. So what I did was I checked, and other people say it's not the case.
And that's all okay because he's not the boss, Reese Layson is. And that lack of accountability, that complete lack of accountability is perhaps the biggest problem with this setup that he himself has helped create. And if you do dare criticize Bumaza or the group or anything, you yourself become the villain. I want to share another quote from a former member of the group who volunteered because, well, it's given me something to think about throughout this investigation. I've had a lot of time to think about things and clear my head. It's fascinating how it was back then when I was part of the group. It's very hard to describe and straightforward to understand. I still doubt and blame myself sometimes, but I try to remember why I left. And the reasons I left for real. To some small extent, I understand what they're trying to say there. Throughout the course of reporting on this piece, Layson and Marza both tried to make us doubt and blame ourselves too. We're threatening the charity work, we're told, or we're harassing volunteers.
For someone who's claiming, who's trying to do a piece about a manipulative cult leader, who can manipulate.
Time and time again, to get through this constant and very public criticism of what we're doing, we needed to take a big, deep breath, take a step back and just look at the entirety of what we found here. This organisation has real problems that need to be addressed. It places far too much trust on the people at the top, both in terms of the huge amounts of money being raised. Even if 1.5 million isn't a lot to Bumaza, it might be to the volunteers who helped raise it. It also demands that everyone trust in his and Lason's ability to recognise ethical issues that this group is handling. Is it right that the face of your organisation is talking to his audience about women being emotionally manipulated machines? What kind of impact does that have on the men and women listening? Is it right that people suffering with depression, anxiety, social isolation, low self-esteem were encouraged to click and follow Bumaza's ideology? Even now, Logic Nation remains online and without any disclaimers relating to the fact that even Bumaza himself regrets how some of this stuff was presented. Has the cryptocurrency and the idea that volunteers may one day become millionaires create a financial dependency within the group? Has the idea of this big payout become an incentive for people to live and work there? What happens if it never pans out? And when accusations of abuse do arise, where's the independent inquiry into what happened? Where's the public statement about its findings and what's being done as a result? If this group wasn't set up in the way that it is and was instead a charity or a non-profit, that would be demanded, surely. Where's the infrastructure to protect these volunteers? Many of those questions, in our opinion, remain unanswered, and when we've tried to ask them, we've been written off as either a excuse or a symptom of a cancel culture that's getting wildly out of control. Which, by the way, is going to be the focus of a short documentary Bumaza and his group are now making about us.
And the problem is it spreads too fast. It's like you can't do damage control. The damage is done immediately. So we have to preemptively make sure that everybody knows. Everyone. And they will. Even if I have to spend $100,000, I don't give a shit. Everybody will fucking know about this shit. And this is what we also will do. We will do a press release and everything, by the way. We will also run ads, and we will make sure, we will also do a campaign around cancel culture. And even fund it quite a bit. And he's just an example. I mean, because it's not just him. Like, a lot of people get cancelled. And basically, the angle is how cancel culture disabled me for raising millions for children in need. And I will also have a quote of Save the Children. We will do a press release, everything, and a big event around it. And raise awareness. That's what we're gonna do. What you gonna say?
This documentary has been, in truth, a horrible thing to work on. Not only have the topics been soul-sapping, but we've also had our livelihood threatened multiple times along the way. We've been told our reputations will be ruined, and that we may face a legal battle over defamation once we're published. And you know what? We're not rich. We make this stuff out of a spare bedroom. Those kind of threats, they matter to us. They sink in. And yet, despite them, we've decided to go ahead and publish what we found here because we believe that people like Bumaza, people like Layson, people in positions of power need to be held accountable and need to use that power, and that is what we've tried to do. Yeah, thank you for watching, and thanks again to all of our supporters for allowing us to work on a piece like this for as long as we did. We wanted to get it right.
This can't be.
Hello, I'm in Peter Molyneux's
You sound like me. You always do. Do not draw
dining
this out.
room. I am supposed to be here.
Show
We're
some
going to
mercy.
do our first episode in a new series called The Games I Made. Now this series will probably be fairly different because we want to do it with the most interesting games in video game development. And the
Enough.
idea basically is that we're going to go through their entire game development career, and we've got a bunch of physical objects to
too
represent
late.
that. We've got pretty much every game that Peter Molyneux has made right here in front of us, as well as some extra bits and pieces. And before we invite Peter in to take a look and join us in this nostalgia journey, I just want to say a big thank you to our patrons. This is by far the biggest project we've ever done. Inspired by quite a lot of stuff, camera operator, lots more than we usually are able to do, and that is thanks to everyone that supports us on Patreon. So yeah, this video is for you, and I guess it's time to talk to Peter.
For once, I can't see past this moment.
Welcome to your own dining room.
Oh my god, look at all this. How the hell did you find all these?
It took a little while. We have the surprise here that you're not allowed to see just yet.
Okay.
Keep on, what does your gaming career have to do
There's no
with a can of
saving
baked
them.
beans?
Well, it
All I did was prolong
kind of
suffering.
started with
I'm so
this
sorry, I'm
person
so sorry, I'm
called
so-
Camille de Kock. And she was this girl I really, really fancied. And her dad was this
Pain is gone. I feel like I can breathe again. You better be right about this, Sid. I don't know why, but you helped me. I know you're still in there. We're still here, and we're not alone. We can't go back and change the past. We have to pick up the pieces and fix what's left. The truth is a heavy burden.